What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Monday, February 13th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this 11-game NBA slate tonight. At the point guard position, I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. Now, they've been pretty good versus opposing point guards, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has averaged 49.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He's projected at 50.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value, but I think he can score 55 fantasy points or more, and he's 10,700 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 236.5 points scored in this game, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has scored 62, 47, and 26 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 39, 37, and 29 minutes. So I like this pick, not because of the matchup, but because of his player versus team history. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has scored 74, 46, 52, 45, and 45 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Pelicans, and just in his last 5 games in general. The only bad game was that 26. Outside that, he had a 46, a 47, a 62, and a 66. So he's been playing really well, and I think his ownership might be a little bit lower than it should be because he does have a bad matchup on paper, but he plays really well versus this team. So I like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, so at the shooting guard position, I like Bradley Beal. I still think he's underpriced from the Washington Wizards playing the Golden State Warriors, who have the 8th worst defense overall, middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. And Bradley Beal has averaged 37.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. Now he's projected at 36.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's 7,600 DraftKings salary. He's 900 more on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 232 points scored in this game. And Bradley Beal has scored 50 and 46 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 31 and 32 minutes. So we know he has 50 plus fantasy point upside. It doesn't take him much when he gets hot to get there. And at only 7,600 DraftKings salary, I just think he's underpriced. I think it's a great value play for that price tag. So I like Bradley Beal here versus the Golden State Warriors. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. So here's a mid-range play that I think's got some good upside in a high-scoring game with a good matchup. Take a look at DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks playing the Charlotte Hornets, who have the 2nd worst defense overall, give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. DeAndre Hunter has averaged 24.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. So he's projected at 25 fantasy points here tonight. I think he's going to score 30 fantasy points or more in this matchup and get you well over 5 times value. So he's 5,200 DraftKings salary and he's 100 less on FanDuel. So I like that price on both sites. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 241 points scored in this game. So you got a high scoring game. And DeAndre Hunter has scored 38, 19, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 35, and 27 minutes. So I will say DeAndre Hunter is inconsistent. He's hit or miss. He's going to go out there. He can put up 40 fantasy points or he can put up 15 fantasy points. So the reason I like him is just because of the matchup and the high scoring game. And his player versus team history is pretty good here. So DeAndre Hunter has scored 33, 17, 24, 35, and 29 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Hornets. So only 1 out of those last 5 would have been a bad fantasy score for his price tag. So I like DeAndre Hunter here versus the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, so here's another value play that I like. I think his price tag is way too low for the minutes that he's going to be playing, and he's got the green light to shoot the ball. So I think there's a lot of fantasy upside and potential with this guy. So take a look at Benedict Mathurin from the Indiana Pacers playing the Utah Jazz, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Benedict Mathurin has averaged 25.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He's projected at 24.6 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.3 times value. Only 4,600 DraftKings salary and 200 less on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 238 points scored in this game. So high scoring game and a good matchup. And Benedict Mathurin has scored 28 and 28 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 30 and 32 minutes. So I like Benedict Mathurin here versus the Utah Jazz. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. Okay, so at the power forward position...
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
I think it's a little bit of risk here, but it's a good matchup, and his price tag is low. He doesn't need much to hit value. He's playing plenty of minutes. He's a great player. So I like Gordon Hayward from the Charlotte Hornets, playing the Atlanta Hawks, who have the 7th worst defense overall, give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Gordon Hayward has averaged 25.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 23.6 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 25 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. Only 4,900 DraftKings salary, 300 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 241 points scored in this game, and Gordon Hayward has scored 32, 24, and 24 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 36, 29, and 35 minutes. And let's see how he's done versus the Hawks. He scored 28, 26, and 24 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Hawks. I think he could be worth rolling the dice on here as a low salary option that's got over 30 plus fantasy point upside. He could even hit 40 plus. He's a good player. So I like Gordon Hayward here versus the Atlanta Hawks. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Jarrett Allen from the Cleveland Cavaliers playing the San Antonio Spurs, who have the absolute worst defense overall and give up the second most fantasy points to opposing centers. Jarrett Allen has averaged 33.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He's projected at 32.4 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 35 fantasy points or more pretty easily here tonight and get you over 5 times value. He's 6,800 DraftKings salary. Now he is 1,100 more on FanDuel, so I love that DraftKings price. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 225 points scored in this game. And Jarrett Allen has scored 38, 44, and 42 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 30, and 29 minutes. And let's see how he's done versus the Spurs. Pretty well here. He scored 37, 39, 43, and 36 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Spurs. And his lowest score in his last 5 games is a 37. So I like Jarrett Allen, especially on DraftKings, here versus the San Antonio Spurs.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.